to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How are you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. Welcome to, this journey that we're taking where we're going to start to go really, really deep spiritually. We're just setting the ground right now, just kind of trying to lay the foundation so that, we can all be on the same page. I know there's some who are way ahead of the pack, and some who are lagging a bit behind. It doesn't matter where you are, as long as you are constantly, expanding your consciousness, awakening your consciousness, and really also protecting your consciousness, because the battleground is the mind. And I don't know if I've released that show yet, on this platform, but I have definitely released it on the Dr. Mumbi Show Patreon. So definitely check it out. Special shout out to our Patreon family. So the number one principle, as I've been saying, we have to move away from looking at the 10 laws of Moses. You know what I mean? And get deeper into the 7 universal laws that kind of govern how this world is being created, how it's being manifested, because we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And for many of us, because we did not obey, or we didn't know, or we didn't follow, or we took too casually the very first law of the universe, which is the world is mental. We have become total victims of a mental overthrow. It's almost been a mental overthrow, of a total mental annihilation of our culture, our society, etc., etc. Because everything is created either, in the mind. And I always feel like the mind is not just this mental thing which thinks logically, like the English language tried to make us think. It's a much deeper, if you look at the subconscious mind, etc., etc. But I like to say spiritually, it's created spiritually, and then it's brought here. So if you know that everything is mental, then you'll understand why the Babylon system has focused so much on controlling our mental, our government governing the mental. There's so much there, that is all about entertainment, is all about, making us enter something and then containing us there. But why was Babylon so keen to name everything? Because it's crazy. I'm here in the middle of freaking nowhere, beloved, and the river near my farm is named after Mzungu. I'm like, I was asking my workers the other day, what's the name of this river? They're like, spell, I don't know who. I was like, no, what's the original name? And I've been wanting to know that there is a power of names. And I mean, other concepts you really need to get into, even just on an individual basis, is your own name and what your own name gives to you. And don't think this is witchery. Don't think this is wizardry. This is investigating all the facets of your own personality and character, because you are a multi-dimensional being. You have so many different layers to you, beloveds. So it's very important to go into your name. I had a totally Babylon name. My name was changed actually when I was born, and then and by the time I was 7, I mean I almost have like 6 names, you know what I mean, on my passport. But and I realized that Mumbi was the name I was born with, and Mumbi is a very powerful name, mother of the nation, creator, just power. And then I was given this Babylon name that has no power. And that's the name I operated on for most of my life. And it made me very Babylonian. You know what I mean? I wanted what Babylon had to offer. I was working for the World Health Organization, blah, 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 blah. And, I was thinking of that name. And the minute I changed my name and went back to my original name, Mumbi Seraki, beloveds, everything changed. I mean, my life just started to align itself, and I've done deep research into like my original birth name, because those that kind of hints at some of the things that you came in with. I mean, you're such a limitless supreme being that you don't all the signatures aren't on you, because one thing that we need to realize is that the naming process was a very deep process in Africa, but they also check, date of birth, your name. It's good to kind of check what all these things mean for yourself, and kind of see the kind of energies, mental energies influencing you. It's good to also look into things like gematria, beloveds, because the world is mental. So the first thing you need to do is expand your freaking mind. Open up your mind. Start looking at all the information that is available to you. Don't fear that you're going to fall into the arms of the devil. Unless you have negative mind and negative intention, then whatever you do will have that signature to it. But if you're of positive mind, don't be afraid to explore, because all these fears is what has kept you from knowing the truth about who you even are. And so I would first and foremost even look at my names. And they say if you really want to have power, a powerful meditation to do is also start writing down the names of your ancestors. I was told to do it 12 generations back, and to kind of chant along that bloodline. Because you see, the Agikoyo, like I was named after my grandmother, my mother was named after her grandmother. So there's always a bloodline where you can connect back the dots to the family line. And that's what we have to do to kind of to awaken us to our own narrative. Because what they did when they came and they named, our lakes, Lake Victoria, our falls, Victoria Falls, and, named every single thing, and gave everything a Mzungu name, even our streets, etc. Is it disconnected for us from our world? It literally mentally killed our world, beloveds. Because I told you, everything is living. Our ancestors, didn't worship trees. They communed with trees, which means they could communicate with trees. They could communicate with mountains. And a mountain, imagine how massive a mountain is. Imagine the kind of power and energy that is just contained in a mountain. They could communicate with lakes. But the minute you started calling your ancestral lake Lake Victoria, that lake is like, who? It immediately cut off communication. Immediately. And that's why there's been so much emphasis on naming everything. And that's why it's so good to see that there's been such a push in the last decade to rename everything back into our original African names, which shows you the ancients are back, beloveds. But we have to recognize the importance of that, because the world is mental. Anyway, let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Wake up, Africa! Welcome back, beloveds, to Wake Up Africa on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, where we're going to be diving much, much deeper into spiritual matters. And consider it as anything I share should really act as either a confirmation or a key, to more information. And it should resonate. Anything that doesn't resonate, beloveds, leave it behind. And if you're not yet here, it's also all right. Everyone, just my greatest encouragement, whatever your story is, just really make sure that you know the ins and outs of it. If you're a Bible thumping Christian, make sure you study that Bible for yourself, and it's not what the pastor has told you, and you've read it at least from cover to cover. Because this is, we're in what they call now the mental age, the golden age, the return to ourselves. But you see, the world has always been mental. And so it's almost like, another great white lie. And I think it's really important for us to put aside the childish 10 commandments, which really keep you in below elementary school, keep you in kindergarten, and start to learn and familiarize yourself and fully understand and digest. Just start with the 7 principles, universal principles. You can see them here. I'll definitely be going, one by one. But what needs to happen now is there is an onslaught on our minds, beloveds, where The first thing there's a race between education and catastrophe, literally, where so much is being used to shift us and push us into a foreign narrative. And it's all been done through these principles. And the number one principle is that the world is mental. The world is created from the mind. They say our thoughts create our reality. We are a thought in the mind of God. And so if we think that the world is mental, or I mean, if that is the first universal principle, and I'd like to think about it more as spiritual. Everything happens in the spiritual first, as I've been saying for so long, before it manifests physically. So if we think about that, why was there so much importance from all these colonial powers? Because they didn't come to invade us physically and then leave. It was a systematic move. And as I said, the Muzungu body was used as a vehicle to achieve the goals of the principalities and the rulers of wickedness, the spiritual, the demons, if you want to call it that we're really contending with, that are kind of ruling this world right now. It's not that the Mzungus aren't that brilliant, beloved. They've just been, but they are that weak, and they've allowed themselves to be used like that. But why was there such an obsession with naming everything? Lake Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, Lake Victoria in Uganda and Kenya. Why was there such a systematic thing where even a Mzungu would come to a village and name a river after his family? What kind of madness is that? Is it madness though? And it's because if I name you, I own you. If I name you, you become part of my kingdom. So the Babylon system and the Babylon kingdom is mental, beloveds. Beyond this mental matrix that they've created, it doesn't exist. Beyond naming everything, including us, so we are all part and parcel of their world, because some are called John, some are called Susan, some are called Mary, some are called Josephine. Who is Josephine? How is that even connected to your bloodline? What was Josephine? A lot of people have these Muzungu names, and you haven't even checked what the Muzungu names mean to the Mzungus. But by naming us and naming everything, they pulled us, and then making us speak their language, they pulled us into their mental reality. And we almost became schizophrenic. And then they shut down our world. They shut down Zion. They shut down our reality, beloveds. Because we went from, I told you, everything is alive. Whether you believe it or not, everything is alive. You're never alone. There's a chicken behind me, I saw. You're absolutely never alone. So when you know that everything is living, you move differently. And that's how our ancestors moved. They didn't worship trees. They communed with trees. They didn't worship rivers and mountains. They communed with rivers and mountains because those rivers and mountains were alive. They used to meditate by the river. The river could carry their messages where they needed to go. The river would bring them information and good things and warnings and all kinds of stuff. They used to commune with the animals and the birds. So it's so crazy to me that, even our animals were taken away because they were given foreign names. Everything. That's how Babylon has been created, beloveds. It's through this naming game. Because if you name me, you own me. And so now the Babylon system, be it French, be it Portuguese, be it, English, all of them have created this matrix that we're in. Everything has a foreign name, so everything is shut down. We're in a whole other reality, a whole other realm, because the world is first and foremost, spiritual. So if you really want to reclaim your power, first and foremost, as an individual, start to learn the real names of the rivers and the lakes and the mountains and the trees. And the names of your ancestors, like 12 generations down and beyond. Just try and get that deep and meditate on that. Because you're a spiritual being having a human experience, and the spiritual is more real than the physical, beloveds. And you want the spiritual to become more real for you than the physical. But because of all the distractions and the, physical signs and wonders that have shattered our gates, especially our visual gates, and shut down our first eye. It's like we're walking in darkness and we have no assistance because we don't even know how to call on anything for help. I mean, if you're calling on Jesus and Jesus is a figment of the Mzungu imagination, even the fact that J didn't exist till like the 1500s or something like that, I've done a show on it before. And the fact that, the Bible was actually like put together, because there's like almost 60 to 70 books that have been kept out of the Bible, most importantly the book of Enoch. I mean, these are whole other stories, but it's because this whole thing, they've created this reality by naming everything. And since everything is mental, when we take on those names and then we pass those names on generation to generation, we pass on their kingdom from generation to generation to generation. So we need to stop it. And we need to realize it's not a big thing that we need to do of like, fight, get an African army, fight this, do that. It starts with going back to the basics, renaming everything, including our children. Like, we need a total reformation in Africa where we put down this Babylon lie and we create our own reality, which means cutting down all the names, renaming everything, restructuring everything, our politics, our health, everything. That's the only way we get out of the matrix. Until next time. Tuko pamoja.